The word backbone is a symbol of resiliency for our next guest. It is also the name of his organization that practices what he calls artful activism. You've got a brand new book coming out, Solutionary Rail. I love this. Let's propose something that works for everybody but is cleaner.
Railroads became very dependent upon moving heavy fossil fuel commodities, specifically coal, because it shipped all year round and it could only stay on the tracks. So that created this dependent relationship, and that eventually became very dependent upon just moving heavy commodities by a few big customers, and they stopped doing schedules. So communities lost service. Workers no longer had a work schedule. How are we supposed to have a vibrant society if the people we depend on in our rural communities aren't getting the service they need? How are we supposed to have family farms if they can't get their crops to market? And solving the problem in the U.S. means overcoming the current business model that rail is using. It's been an incredible learning experience over the last few years to be educated by railroad workers and railroad experts, and the rest of the world does it differently. So we've been working really hard to create this solutionary rail, and fundamental to that is that the public use its capacity to get bonds and low interest finance to build out a rail electrification infrastructure that won't be built by the private railroads. And at the same time, we can unleash an incredible build out of renewable energy generation out in rural America, because they will have a customer for those electrons at, peak production. And if we're really smart, we'll put an overhead above the regular lines for the trains. We will put high voltage transmission to make sure that those electrons can also get to population centers, so that we can stabilize the variability of renewable energy. And that's what Solutionary Rail is offering as an alternative to things like oil trains, pipelines, etc.
You solve so many issues with this. I really want people to read it. It's tough to pin you down because you guys do so many actions and you take on so many topics.
There are hundreds and hundreds of people who are part of Backbone Campaign, who I consider part of Team Backbone, and it's those people that I have the honor to work with who make all of this possible.
Moyer tells us his Solutionary Rail project is the most ambitious effort his group has ever undertaken, and it paves the way, he hopes, for a clean energy future. Now, coming up, Exxon and climate change. There are claims the oil giant knew internally of the global warming threat presented by fossil fuels decades ago. But the action they took publicly shows a very different stance. So what did they say?